Hello, everybody. How are you doing? My name's Tom. Um, let's start with a bit of conference yoga, some stretching, get the blood flowing. Can I have a show of hands? If any of you is working for a publisher or a company that has already released a video game, can you raise your hand then? This is excellent. It will be very exciting for you guys. So my talk will be about interesting things and about being a business developer, and it will have thoughts about what it means to me personally and what I think you should be looking for when you're running business development for video games. So basically, how do you sell video games? To give you a bit of context, I can do that. There we go. I'll just press space. So to give you a bit of context, now it works. There was a button. Who am I? What it is that we're doing? What's SUPERHOT? SUPERHOT is a video game. It came out as a game jam prototype many years ago, and it was very fun back then. A browser playable thing looked like that. Immediately after it took off, there were like millions of people playing it online. We harvested the lightning, we bottled it up, we had a Kickstarter campaign, great success, and then we spent years and years and years making the video game. Once it actually released, everybody loved it. We got lots of awards. We made a VR reimagination, redesign of SUPERHOT. It was really fucking cool, and it also got all of the awards, and everybody loved it. And now, a few years later, we're like a proper video game studio. So we've already got like 2 released games, 1 game in early access. We've got a bunch of awards, and depending on how you count, we sold between 2 and 8 million video games already. And the disparity in the millions of units sold is because sometimes you're looking at things like a big giveaway, like a Games with Gold or something, and there's millions of games that got sold, finger quotes, in those giveaways, but they're not really sold. It's just they're given away for basically free to people. And we're still very happily independently owned and run. We are a proper indie game, an indie studio, and that's very happy and lucky for me because we don't have any strings attached. We're not beholden to anybody else when we're making decisions, which is also terrifying. Because if you're selling video games, how do you know if you're doing a good job? And that's been a big part of my life for the last few years, figuring out how do you actually measure success as a business developer. How do you know if you're doing a good job or not? So in this talk, like if you're looking at the sales chart for SUPERHOT games, this is all of our sales across all time. We are not going to be talking about this part. We're not going to be talking about launching games, about marketing for release. We're not going to be talking about influencers that you want to poach for your launch, and we're just going to be focusing on what do you do, and how do you know you're doing a good job with games that have already been released. And that's in part because if you're looking at this chart, so the millions and millions of people that played the prototype when we first made it and jammed it out, I can't really tell you why people liked it. The advice would be to find something that is extremely exciting and interesting to a lot of people, bottle it up, and then don't fuck it up too much, and you're probably gonna be fine. So, not talking about making games, raising funds, launching games. We're gonna be talking about how do you grow games that are already there, and how do you go about your life as a business developer at a video game company. So, let's start with some useful models, and that's gonna be like the one thing. If there's one thing that's gonna be the basic, most initial level of entry to my advice as a business developer, is gonna be this egg. It's about size of your player base and of your market. It's kind of just as in life, size matters. So the one way that you can think about what you're doing as a video game business developer is that you've got a player base, and this is a small circle of people that already own your game or that have already played your game, and then there's the big circle that is all of your hopes and dreams and how big you can make it. And it's important to make realistic assumptions about what is your actual target market. I was lucky enough to be working on two fairly different games from that perspective. Superhot VR, very niche game because it's VR. So there's a total of like 6 million headsets in the wild. We can maybe aspire to be available to be played on half of them if we're extremely audacious. And we're already at about 800,000 units sold. So for Superhot VR, the chart looks more like this, right? So we're almost saturating the market, and that's something that you use when you're making decisions afterwards. For the regular Superhot, it's not the same case because the game is more approachable. You don't need custom hardware. You can just play it on basically your mom's business PC. And the audacious assumption of what's the maximum possible market for this is basically everybody who played Portal would probably enjoy playing Superhot as well. So that's quite a lot of people that we still need to target, that we still need to talk to and convince them to buy our video game. So those two games very different, and it's important for any business developer when you're making decisions to understand how close are you to saturating your market. Is that even a factor that you should be taking into consideration? And how big can your game be if you do an excellent job? How large can you grow it? So how do you do business development as an indie studio? So I would argue this is basically the model that most people have. You just hustle. You do discounting, you do sales strategies, promotional deals, you do some regional marketing, you go and localize the game, you sell it in bulk to somebody, you make boxes, and something happens. And every single time you do something, it's a positive outcome because for as long as you're doing, as you're not preventing people from buying your game, just doing things with it will always increase your sales. So you always get positive feedback. Not necessarily the best thing in the world because then you don't really know if you're not leaving more interesting opportunities on the table. So most studios and most people starting out naive, you kind of just do this. You have your experience or intuition. You make decisions to figure out how do you hustle. If you do this as well, so if you collect actual results from your different endeavors as the business developer, and you've got actual useful data, I'm already in love with you. I think you're already world class. You're number one in my heart, and you're amazing. Because then you can do this. You can feed your data back into your decision-making process, and you can be smarter. You can get increasingly more clever about what you do as a business developer. So we started doing that quite a lot, capturing all we can about how our games are selling and what are we doing. And this has been already extremely useful internally to make me to help me sleep better at night. Because then we do things like this is a chart of our revenue over time, and we just so happen to localize Superhot into Chinese here. And that was obviously a valuable thing to do. You can't see it on this chart, but when you actually filter it into just the Chinese market, it turns out that suddenly in China, we've made more money in the first couple of quarters after localizing than throughout the entire history of Superhot before that. And that is something that you can then quantify and say, yep, that's $100,000 that we've made in extra revenue just from a localization that cost us like $2,000 to make. That helps you sleep better at night because you know you've done a fairly good job. And then sometimes you got situations like this where we made the decision that we want to give back to the Polish player community. Superhot has been fairly expensive, but then Steam introduced the Polish regional currency as an option. So you could set it up however low you wanted. So we said, yeah, let's just drop it by 2/3 in Poland. People in Poland will be happier, and we're not making that much money anyway. But then when you actually track it, if you actually look at the numbers, it turns out that this made us an additional $60,000 in revenue because the price from the get-go was misaligned. It was too expensive for the region, and then trying to find using your own data and your own insights, some outlier markets, trying to figure out where else can you do this. Very useful. You can make lots of extra revenue on that. Or things like there's this bundle, people that show up and tell you, hey, we're gonna be buying like this was an early bundle, like 30,000 copies of your game. And for most indie games, 30,000 copies, that's a lot of copies. So you're a bit afraid that this is going to saturate your market. This is going to eat away at your revenue. You're going to be losing out a lot of money. But then when you actually overlay it on the revenue chart on Steam, the bundle was happening here. You can't really see an impact. And that's true across the board. So people often assume or expect or like have an intuition that a player will know everything about your video game, that they will know when it was on sale, when it's going to be going on sale next, where's the best deal for this. When there's a bundle, they expect that, well, nobody's going to be buying it on Steam now, because why would they? It's available for free in a bundle now. But that's just because you're you, and you're projecting your own knowledge about your video game onto your players, and your players are actually more like this. So they don't really care about your game enough to know everything that there is to know about this. They're still excellent. Don't take this the wrong way. Players are the best, and we love them. They're not goldfish, but they, en masse, they behave kind of like goldfish. So even if you've got extremely large bundles, like this is 150,000 copies that we bundled up and we gave away to people basically for free, and that was at the point in time when we probably sold about 400,000 copies altogether. So we were giving away a very, very large number of copies even for us. When you look at the sales charts on Steam, again, it's not really a change. There's nothing you can see that's actually impacting them. And even if you go a step further, and we did go a step further, and you give away so many copies, that the blue line here, or like what I know is blue, but this is like grayish. This is the free game activations on the platform. The line that you cannot see because it's just one pixel hiding under this line here, that's paid game activations on the same platform. So we made we gave away many orders of money to the more games that we've ever sold on this platform. The revenue chart for this is like this. So it didn't really change. If you slice the data very, very pessimistically and you attribute all of the revenue attrition to just this one event, we maybe lost 7% revenue on this platform. And if you lose 7% revenue, getting 5 million people playing your game in return, that's not about trade-off, I would argue. And that's for giving away 100 times more games that you've sold, basically. Another thing is that you have an intuition or like emotions about the aftermarket for video games. So you feel, well, but if there's going to be a giveaway or a bundle, my games will be available on G2A and Kingwin, and nobody's ever going to buy them on Steam again, because why would they? Again, goldfish, you being the Illuminati eye. But more importantly, we track our players a bit. Like if you launch SUPERHOT on PC for the first time, we get a ping on our servers, and we can track how many people launched the game. And over a period of about a year, we had about 1.5 million new players launching SUPERHOT on PC. At the same time, we sold about 200,000 copies. So that does not necessarily compute. And you would maybe say, well, that's because of all of the bundles and all of the aftermarket sales. But actually, aftermarket sales were about 20,000 units during that time. So the takeaway here is that piracy is probably 100 times more impactful on your sales than aftermarket. And if you're spending your effort being angry and shouting at the aftermarket people, you're probably not doing the best job as a business developer if your goal in life is to just make more money for your video game. So another thing that comes up when you're modeling your potential customer base as more goldfish-like, so more instant gratification focused, not really aware of what you're doing with your video game and not aware of everything in the universe, is that no matter what you do, or like it doesn't really matter much what you do, the conversion rate, so the rate at which people click on the buy button on your store pages, they're pretty stable. They don't change all that much. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise, but over a period of a year, the amount of money, like revenue, that we've been generating on Steam from every eyeball, or like every set of eyeballs, it's pretty much the same. It doesn't matter. It didn't matter much if we updated the game, if we changed screenshots, capsules, if we talked about it more on social media, if we launched it on another platform. It's just 70 cents. And that's what follows from that is that if you're looking to make more revenue, at least on Steam's platform, you need to get more visibility. You need to get more eyeballs. You can't 10x your revenue by tweaking the conversion rates. At least we haven't found a way to do it, and I don't know of anybody who could. But you can get visibility deals, like daily deals and big summer sales, in return for very, very deep discounts. And if you do that, you're suddenly making 200 times more sales in that period of time, in a day. And that's not necessarily a universal one-size-fits-all strategy. Just do deep discounts, just get all the eyeballs, just sell games to as many people as you can, because it depends on the size of your market and depends on the niche that you're targeting. So for SUPERHOT, sure, if you do a deep discount, you're making a lot more money. If you do a deeper discount, you're making even more money. That's pretty stable across any indie titles that we've talked to that have a wide player base and a lot of sales. If you're getting more and more visibility, you're getting more and more sales, and this is a sort of a linear correlation. But if you're niche and you're close to saturating your niche, or the niche is small, there's a fair chance that people that you're showing, you're going to get extra visibility. The people that are relevant and that will potentially have a chance of buying your game, they already know about it. Some of them, most of them, might already have it. So for SUPERHOT VR, the impact of sales, deeper and deeper sales and more visibility, is less noticeable. So you're not getting as much additional revenue from the extra visibility that you can get from a platform. And this doesn't mean that you should not be doing sales. It means that you should probably not. You should be careful about oversaturating your market, and you should be maybe more mindful of the opportunity that's in discounting your game in this case, because it's less. It's you're not going to be doing 100 times more sales on a niche game. So you do all that. You've got all of your models. You do your sales properly, and you ask yourself at one point when you're a bit sad if you're doing a good job, and you look at your charts and you see, well, probably like everything is going great, revenue is increasing year over year, and there were those weird markets that are growing, and they made like $500,000 in revenue, and you're very, very happy about all of that. But then you start asking yourself more questions and start asking yourself, if we made $400,000 extra revenue in strange markets, have other games done the same? Or have we done better because we're doing things? Have we done worse because we're doing things? And you generally don't know. And if you ask anybody, they also don't know, because they don't have charts like this and they don't collect the data. So here's the shouting at clouds part of the whole talk. This is going to be very exciting, because this is going to be about how to fix this, how to make people be more smart as business developers, and how to make the entire industry become really, really clever. And it's very, very soon. So when you're looking at all of those charts and you're looking at the conversion rate, 70 cents, we don't really know if that's good or not. It's 70 cents. We have no reference point. Maybe some other games are making $1 per set of eyeballs. Maybe some are making $5, and we might be trailing behind this. You look at your regional differences, and you see that well, SuperHot is actually making 20 times less in Germany than in Great Britain on Xbox. And we don't know. It seems strange. It's probably a fluke, but for some reason, that's what happens. But maybe everybody else has this the same issue. Or we look at the refund rates in Korea. We localized for Korea. We made some money, but every fourth person returned the game, and we were like, well, the localization is probably bad, but we don't know, or like we would not know, because most people do not track their refund rates in Korea, so we can't even ask anybody because they don't speak the same language. So what I would argue is a very, very necessary, super important bit of this whole mental model of how do you do your job as a business developer that's still missing is this. We, as an industry, don't currently have a systematic way of giving each other advice, providing benchmarks, providing reference points, telling what it is, what's it like to be making decisions at a different company. So here's the solution. I showed you the problem. Now is the solution. The solution is called indie.bi, and it's a thing. All of the charts that I showed you guys, that's from this, and we're making it. I had an idea about making this, so I picked up a team from my other company and I told them to make it, and now it's done. It's a website, exciting. It's like had a login box and everything, and the features. But most importantly, it has this box here right now, and that's a box where you can put all of your different sales reports, revenue reports, your silly CSV files in Japanese from PlayStation Japan's, and it crunches it all up, and then it allows you to slice it up and to see exactly what's there and to compare your platforms between each other, your regions. You can find how your games are growing or shrinking in South America. You can find out if there's a bump in retail activation somewhere because Walmart did a campaign with your boxes. You can find out which days have so far been the most profitable for your games to get a better intuition of how important sales are for your titles, or you can just have all of your revenue on one single screen. And if you have all of that, you can finally start talking to other developers and can finally start making good, insightful decisions about how to run your business with some reference points from across the industry. So this thing, it's actually a thing that we're currently rolling out to some select friends and family developers, early adopters that are dogfooding and testing the system. If you go to the website right now, you can leave your email address and we'll let you know that this is more open for business. The end game for this is that this is going to be, indie.bi is going to become a sort of community-driven, non-profit startup, a weird thing where the big successful developers like ourselves pay a fee to use it, to support the development and the analysts that will be coming up with a knowledge base of actual actionable advice, and we'll be making sure that the entire service is running for the upstart indies, the companies that still haven't made a blockbuster hit, to be able to use it for free. So if there are any questions from you guys, I will be very happy to answer them now. If there are no questions, you can go and sign up, and we'll let you know when it's actually rolling out, probably in a couple of months.
So my question is, first of all, thank you for a wonderful presentation. I love it. My question is, I like very much your idea, and we ourselves try to do also software for analyzing this data. But your idea is something more because it allows to compare data between various companies. So basically, is it like when I register and send this data, Is it like I can make it public and then I can see data of another companies who made it public?
So the question is for the ones that at the back might not have heard. If you upload your data, is it public or is it just for you? And what happens with your data once you upload it into the system? Thank you for the question, Krzysztof. The way it works is that first and foremost, there's a tool for you to analyze your own data, and you, from a privacy standpoint, you can consider this and treat it as a tool for your internal use. So it's kind of like a Google Drive in terms of privacy policy and terms of service. You upload your data, but you're uploading it with the expectation that it's going to be respected and it's going to be your data that you have absolute control over. And that also means that if you make a decision and if you sign an NDA or just YOLO it with another company and you decide that you want to share data with each other, no problem. There are tools in this that will allow you to then have access to each other's data mutually and to be able to have better benchmarks. We eventually will start asking people for approval to get access to like anonymized information, anonymized data from their sales to be able to come up with industry-wide benchmarks. So averages of like how are games usually performing, what you should be expecting in terms of like your regional split. Are you underperforming or overperforming in certain markets, etc. But the core idea is that sales data is still fairly sensitive, and you might not want to have everybody else looking at it and talking about it. So it's yours to control.
Okay. If I may have one more question. For us, one of the biggest things is relation between money we spend on promotion through Facebook, Google, whatever, and revenue. Is this website able to analyze types of promotion also?
Eventually. Right now, it's at a milestone where it slices and dices your sales information and your visibility information, so Steam impressions and Google Analytics impressions. The roadmap also includes plugging it into marketing spend and just grabbing information from Google ads, Facebook ads, Twitter ads, just the main ones, and seeing if they correlate to anything. The idea is that hopefully this will be an ongoing project that just has a stable revenue stream covering all of the costs of running a small team and a couple of analysts coming up with additional signals to plug into the system to have as comprehensive of a tool as is realistically possible.
What I'd like to ask is whether have you checked that the huge increase of sales in Poland after you've cut the price is actually the Polish players or people buying through proxy or stuff like this from other countries?
We have not detected any decrease in sales on Steam. So it's not like we obviously cannibalized the part of our market. There might be, it might not be Polish players, it might be somebody else, but it is additive revenue on Steam. It did cannibalize quite a bit of our like retail sales. So people, instead of buying on like CDP PL or like Gram PL, they were buying on Steam now. So the net effect still was way stronger than the cannibalized sales on those smaller platforms, but they did suffer from that. It wasn't proxy though, at least as far as we were able to tell.
Was there a big coverage by the media of the price cut or just organic?
I am generally skeptical of press coverage, media coverage having a direct impact on sales at any point. What did actually significantly influence the initial sales, and maybe a spike in awareness of the title, was a Steam campaign. That when we changed the prices, we also coerced our Steam account manager to send out a Steam message to players in Poland that SUPERHOT is now available in our local currency and it's super cheap.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else, friends? All right. If there's no other questions, I mean, if there are other questions, I'll be sticking around and you can just ask me directly. If there are no other questions, thank you very much, guys. Go and register at the website. And I'll be starting to send you emails about this eventually in a few months.